Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Welcome. Hope everyone's having a great Sunday.
Hello, everybody.
Dingo is weathering the storm for us there in Buffalo.
We're getting a little bit here.
Yeah, the winds have been crazy here. The winds have been nuts. No snow, but crazy winds.
We had a snow squall down here before.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah, but that's no big deal. It's just the wind was blowing stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
That's winter for you, right?
Yeah. Well, these guys are built for it. It's what they've been going through forever.
That's right. It's part of them.
Can't imagine what he goes through this morning. It's crazy.
It is what it is.
I mean, it must have been significant enough if they moved the Buffalo game to tomorrow. It had to.
Well, I tell you what, real fast, it would have been tricky and tough today going there.
Yeah. Huh?
Yeah, I got a bunch of guys at the stadium. They're shoveling. They're doing their thing, and God bless them. I don't know how they got there. Dang.
So good. You think it's a good call? It had to happen?
In a way, yeah.
All right.
It would have been. I'm thinking now, like it's 2:00. That would have been a tough morning, man. You're talking people wanting to get to the parking lot. People would have been. Those roads were horrible this morning.
Yeah.
They didn't get to them all. So you would have had 80, 90,000 fans rushing to that stadium this morning. It would have been bad. I think.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of accidents. A lot of impatient people. Oh, sure. It would have been backed up. That throughway was bad this morning. It was. So, maybe they did make the right call. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, they'll have everything in pristine condition by tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep. Everything should be opened and running. I mean, they closed down the whole city. They had a travel ban on, and that's another thing. They had a travel ban. They still have a travel ban on. I don't know how that would have worked out for the game and everything. So.
All right. Good.
Yep, and that's that there in River City over in the Buff.
All right. Well, let me say hello to the folks in the chat. Hello, Patty. Hello, Todd Father, David Cameron, Arlene, Big Bones is here. Kelly is here. I saw before Baywatch was here. He says he's going to be watching. Listening. And then I think there was someone else too that was here that said they were going to be listening. I think it's Todd Father because he's working on his snowblower. So,
yeah.
All right. So today's episode is dealing with one of the flashback parts of the movie, which goes back to the 1920s in Brooklyn with Vito. And the scene opens up with Vito on the street in Brooklyn getting some oranges. Hold on a second here, because I got a good shot of this that I want to put up here. If I could find it here. Why is this so difficult? There we go. Now, this scene, it's the start. It's a switch back to the past, and he loves his oranges, and he's at a vendor, and he's picking out his oranges. And the importance, I think, of this little tiny scene is the fact that we're seeing Vito start to become what he ultimately ends up being, is the Godfather. He goes to pay for the oranges, and the vendor says, no money here. Take the oranges. Take it. And then Vito's response is, oh, thank you. And if you need something, you come to me, we talk. So he's establishing himself as the Don of the neighborhood, much like in the old country. If somebody needs help, they're going to go to him for help. And this is just a little scene that kind of demonstrates that in how it's developing the relationship.
Now we do it with the kids at Horton's and the kids at the stores. Well, I'm sorry. There's no neighborhood, so we do it at the stores now. We get them better jobs. Go ahead.
Right. And then that brings us to the next scene, which is seated in his house, and his wife has brought in Signora Colombo, who's a neighbor of theirs, and she's a widow. She has a small child, and she has a dog. And she got the dog for the child because she needs, since the father died, she needed something for the child to, help him deal with the grief and everything else. Well, the landlord, who happens to be an Italian by the name of Signore Roberto, was not happy that she brought this dog into the apartment and proceeds to go to evict her. And she goes to her friend, Carmela Corleone, for help. And this also is a scene beckoning back to the whole relationship in Sicily. Now, this has nothing to do with crime. This has nothing to do with Vito profiting from this at all. This is just him helping out the neighborhood, helping out a woman in need. And this is how it was looked at in Sicily, that, before it got to the point where it was really bad. But in its origins, that's what it was looked at. You couldn't go to the government for help. If you had a dispute with your landowner, you couldn't do that. You had to go for help from someone else. So what does she do? She goes to the local chieftain, which is Vito. And that's what that right there is setting up. Again, this is all setting up this progression as to what he's going to be, what Vito actually turns out to be.
But she followed the footsteps. She followed the footsteps on what they did. She didn't go to the police. She went right to Vito.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
There was no courts of law. There were no landlord tenant courts back then either. Right. It wasn't. The landlords ruled. Whatever they wanted to do, they could do.
Yeah. True.
Right. She just followed in line of the neighborhood rules.
And Vito says, first Vito's response is, well, I can give you some money to move. And she says, no, I can't move. I can't do it. I want you to talk to him. And so he agrees to do it. So that brings us to him finding Signor Roberto in a barbershop on the street. And before he comes out of the barbershop, we hear him talking to the barber, and he's complaining about his tenants. It's like a pigsty. They act like animals. They destroy things. So he's reminiscent of the old aristocracy of Sicily, where a few people owned all the land and everyone else was a peasant that just worked the land.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yep. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. There I go. Pork tongue. That Napoleon. Get him out of here. My father immediately, Napoleon. Get him out of here. Oh.
Well, he's not. He's not. He's Calabrese.
Right. But how we say it.
Yeah.
The side of our mouth.
Mm-hmm. So Roberto comes out of the barbershop, and Vito grabs him and says, "Can I speak to you, please?" And I'm a friend of Signora Colombo, and you can see the disdain on Roberto's face. He's very pompous. He's very arrogant. He doesn't want to be bothered. He just continues to walk and he listens. And Vito goes through the spiel, telling him how he wants, she got rid of he starts off, she got rid of the animal, so let her stay. And what is Roberto's response? I already rented it to another family. And Vito continues, but come on, she's a woman, she's a widow, she has no place to go. This neighborhood is all she has. Can you please let her stay? He's asking, he's not demanding anything. Vito is not demanding anything. He's not intimidating anybody. He's not doing anything like that. He's just asking. And we see the core of what Roberto is. It's all about money. I rented it to another familia, and they pay more money. They're going to pay more money.
Yep.
It's all about money for him.
All about money. Yep.
Absolutely.
So Vito jumps on that and takes out his wad of cash. And the interesting part here is the expression on Roberto's face when he takes out the money. You see his eyes light up, and he's focused on the money. And that
Greedy,
it's
greedy,
says the
no
message
good.
right there. That's all he is.
Yep.
It's all about money.
Greedy, greedy.
That's true.
Manjazulu. As soon as he sees the money, he's a Manjazulu right away, right to the money.
Exactly.
His whole demeanor changed when he saw them.
Yup.
And here's the picture I found.
Look at him. There he is. Look at him.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And that's all he is a mosquito.
All he cared. Yeah, he was just a slumlord, basically. You know?
Yeah.
Just a mosquito. That's all he was.
And Vito licks his finger and starts taking the money off, and gives him 6 months advanced increase in the rent. And then he says, "But the dog stays." And then we get an explosion from Signore Roberto. And this is where he says, "I will kick your Sicilian ass into the street," because which is hysterical. And the fact that if you look at him, he's not going to kick anyone's ass into the street. But the key here is, what is Don Vito's response? He does not get angry. He just smirks.
Yep.
Lets him do his little tantrum.
Beautiful.
Let him do his little tantrum, and then takes his money and takes it back into his hand, and he says, "Here, do me this favor. Do me this favor. Ask around the neighborhood about me. I return favors." So it's not about intimidation or violence, but it is about intimidation. It turns into intimidation. And here's the Vito right here.
I love it.
I return favors. I return favors. Ask around the neighborhood. Now, because he knows what's going to happen. As soon as Roberto asks around the neighborhood, he's going to hear what happened to Fanucci. That's
Vito already knows.
Yeah.
Vito already knows Fanucci was a stuffed shirt. He was a fake one. He knows Signor Roberto's the same type of guy, same type of man. He's another stuffed shirt, acting tough, but as soon as you press on them, they crack.
Right.
And that's exactly what both of them did. And he knows it already here. That's why he's calm. That's why he's playing the businessman role.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't dressed like that for Fanucci.
Right.
He came out of the store unemployed, looking like Dindu, did his business, Then, after Fanucci, when he took over, that's how he, faced Signor Roberto, dressed up.
Yeah, he has arrived.
Yes. Calm. I ain't got to get excited over this stuff, sure.
Yeah. His reactions are his
totally
demeanor,
professional.
Amazing. You don't know what he's thinking. He just,
Nope. He's just telling them straight out.
I love that.
As soon as you go check and ask my name, it's going to be all over with. He already knows.
Beautiful.
Yep.
And the key here is, again, one of the tenets that Vito lives by. You don't get angry. You don't get emotional. You stay calm at all times. That's his power. That's his strength.
That's me. I do the same thing.
Could you imagine what Al Clemenza and Tessio were looking at, Signor Roberto in the neighborhood, They don't talk about all that, but.
Right. Now you compare this to another type of gangster, another type of the modern day gangster, or the Sopranos gangster. This scene would be a total different thing. It would end up with a beating. It would end up with a beating right there on the street.
100%.
Yep. That's nonsense compared to what it used to be.
All right. Okay, so now I just want to say to this is Roberto really is a metaphor for the old country. The whole scene is a metaphor for the old country. He represents the aristocracy, and Signora Colombo is, or Colombo, whatever her name is the peasants that live on the land, and they're being shoved off the land, and they go to the mafia to help. That's what that whole thing is about. That's what it's all about.
It's true. Yep. He's an opportunist taking advantage of the weakness of the people or the fear of the people to go to any authority or anything like that. He's just taking advantage of it.
Right. And there's also a point where she's talking to Vito and Carmela, and he says that uh, Signor Roberto said he's going to get the police to throw me into the street. There's always this threat of the police, that these opportunists use, you know,
because they know they're scared of the police.
Now, right. The reality is Signor Roberto's not going to get any police, because the police are Irish, and the police are going to say, let this Ginzo do what it, let them do whatever they want to do. I don't care. This is the slum. They're going to wipe their hands of it unless they're paid to do it. That's the only way they're going to get involved.
Like McCluskey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like McCluskey, right? Exactly.
Right.
Because that's the fear, because they fear the authority so much that their only protection and their only connection to the world is whoever has power in the neighborhood. Signor Roberto was a powerful, wealthy man due to being a slumlord, and Vito was a powerful man, not wealthy yet, powerful man, because of his building of his reputation. As these scenes that we're doing go on, he's building his reputation. So that's why when he said the police, she went to Vito.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly.
They both threatened with the police. Fanucci threatens with the police, and so did this animal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this guy, this guy is so typical of. I mean, I remember my grandfather saying that Italians are the other Italians' worst enemies, and this guy is so indicative of that. This guy is taking advantage of poor people that have nothing to get peanuts from them. They have nothing to begin with, and he's going to pour the dimes from their hands. That's all he cares about, pulling the dimes from their hands.
Within our own culture.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Right.
It makes me almost embarrassed sometimes when I see things like this.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Because the world perceives us all to be like this once they see this.
Yeah,
of course.
So we wear that label, and we're not all like this. We're not all Galvones like that. The people we're surrounded by, we're all compassionate individuals. We all have good souls.
Right.
But people like these animals, and we have been around these animals in real life.
Sure.
They're bloodsuckers. They're bloodsuckers, and it's horrible. It's horrible that is an unfortunate, really big part of our culture.
Oh, the stigma is terrible. The stigma is horrible.
It's the groundwork for stereotypes. Stuff like this, they take it and they run with it. They expand it and they apply it to everybody. That's what they do.
It's bad. But anyway, it gave us great theater. Here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And so the next scene is Vito is back at Genco Importing in the office, and Signor Roberto by this time had asked around the neighborhood, as we find out that he's been asking around the neighborhood, and he comes to bend the knee, so to speak, and he's so nervous he can't even open the door of the office to get, or the storefront. He can't even open the door to the storefront.
So nervous. He was fumbling.
Because he knows he'll disappear now.
He was fumbling.
Yeah, exactly.
He knows he could disappear now. Fanucci ain't around. He probably asked,
Mm-hmm.
Hold on a minute. Before we go too far ahead, I have a question. Vito picked up an orange in that scene?
Yes. Well, he didn't pick up an orange. He
was at the fruit stand. He was
at the fruit stand, and he pointed to what he wanted.
Okay.
And the guy put them
in orange. Okay.
The guy put them in a bag and said, "Here, take them. Take them."
Because I asked about the orange. You asked me to ask Charlie about the oranges.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he kind of said it's just a symbolism of power. But in further talking about it, he says the symbolism of the orange is not to get too attached to an individual. As you see an orange, don't get too attached to the individual that is around that orange. Tragedy is about to occur.
Okay.
That's from Charlie. That's from Charlie. Some type of tragedy is something's going to happen. Don't get too attached. This orange is going to go away. You're going to peel it off. The orange is going to be gone. Don't get too attached to somebody that's around you right now.
Okay.
So that's the whole. Yeah.
I mean, oranges are prevalent in that picture, in that scene, like in the stand. There's oranges all over there. But he's a fruit vendor. He's got more than just oranges. He's got
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Which is good, because I was
Yeah.
wondering, he didn't go just for an orange, because we saw no tragedy right after that.
Right. Now,
Right?
when he gets the assassination attempt, he's specifically buying oranges. He's specifically
That's
getting oranges.
totally different.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's
Yeah.
where that goes
Yeah.
to the reasoning. So I did
Mhm.
check that out. Yeah.
I always thought our fruit was a banana. You know, bananas.
I don't
There
know.
was so. It was
What do you-
always with the Sicilians
Oh.
around our area. They were always anything into fruit. We ran, but my grandfather, he was the banana king. But it always went with the Italians and Sicilians around here.
So
Mhm.
it's interesting. See, we learn these things,
Yep, the banana man, bananas, this, that. It always lingoed into our world.
Well, fruit in general is a major staple in the Mediterranean diet.
Right.
Right. It's always there.
Go figure, banana.
Mhm.
Banana. It fits perfect.
Let me say hello to Gianni. Let's see if anyone else is coming. Yankees came in. David Cameron. See no evil. How you doing, guys?
They watch her grow a mustache in half a day.
What mustache? What, you got a mustache?
I just didn't shave.
So Mr. Roberto shows up at the office, and Vito is waiting for him.
Oh my god, I love it. Oh my god.
And now look at this in the background, and I noticed this today when I was rewatching it. The Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus is right there behind him.
Wow, that's crazy.
Right behind him.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And I couldn't find a picture of Roberto himself like stumbling in. I tried to find that. I couldn't find that, but he stumbles in and he says, and there's a few things, iconic things he says here. He gives back the money and he counts it out. He counts it out. 1, 2, 3, and he hands out everything. He's giving everything back to him. And then he makes this arrogant proclamation. The rent stays like before, as if
the same.
Yeah, as if he's like of importance.
Yeah, like he's a big shot now
Yeah,
or something,
right.
Yeah, look what I did for you. The rent stays the same.
Yeah.
No, I want it less. And he did. He lessened it.
Well, and the key there, Vito, is that Vito doesn't even say that. He doesn't even
he
have to specifically ask. He just looks at him. He doesn't respond, and just looks at him.
Nothing.
And then looks away.
Nothing.
And the message comes. The message is transmitted.
As soon as he did this, the rent will stay the same. That's all you got to do as a street guy. You go like this. What? And immediately the person, okay, I'll go lower.
Yeah.
Just to make that look go off your face. And that was a perfect example of it. That's all that was. Total intimidation down to the core that was.
Without saying anything.
Without saying a word. One look. Like our father used to look at us when we were being bad.
That's Vito's whole personality. He never really has to speak.
That's it. That they don't have to speak. Bottom line.
Exactly. Let me see here. Yeah, I looked for more pictures in that regard, but there's not that many online. But I thought I had a picture of but I guess not.
They even laugh at him when he's opening the door and he can't open. Tessio's laughing at him and everything.
Okay, here we go.
Remember?
Yeah, here we go. Hold on a second.
Yeah, Tessio laughs at him. He was so nervous. Yeah, Arlene, he tries to run out of there. There he is.
Love it.
Yeah, that's and I forget what this character's name here, but this was the
Abadando. That's Abadando.
Abandando, yes. Yeah. Abandando, right.
He is in Goodfellas, he's Carbone in the freezer.
Carbone, yes. Correct. Yeah. Yep. Carbone, yep.
Frank Severo's his real name. Not really the best guy.
Oh no, I don't know anything about him. Okay.
Yeah, Frankie.
Yeah.
Frankie Severo.
But anyway, so he lowers it $10. He lowers it $5, and then there's no response, and he lowers it $10, and then the Don says, Deichi, and then he says, can I offer you some coffee? Can I offer you some coffee? And at that point, he stumbles, and I got to go, and he can't even open the door to leave because he's so nervous. He has to get out of there and do what he has to do.
Runs out of there.
Runs, exactly.
Tried to get out. He was fumbling with the lock, but he couldn't get out.
As long as he made everything good, that's all he wanted to do was get out of there.
Exactly.
But you got to remember, Vito wasn't asking for all that extra stuff. All he wanted was the woman to stay in the house and pay her rent.
Mm-hmm. And he was willing to pay money out of his own pocket for this. He was willing to pay himself. Vito was willing.
You know what? Yeah. That's the price you pay for being a scumbag in the beginning.
Exactly. You're absolutely right, Tino.
Right, ALD, for being a scumbag in the beginning of an introduction and with people. Oh, you want to be one of them guys? Well, you know what? As soon as I get a chance, I'm going to give it to you right back.
Right.
But think about this. Think about this. He wasn't trying to hurt Signore Roberto.
No.
And he wasn't trying to extort him either.
No.
He wasn't being an arrogant, ignorant individual. He was trying to help everybody. He knew Roberto needed his rent, of course. He didn't take that away from him. No. And he knew that Colombo needed the house. So he was really trying to help everybody.
He wanted to slap his ass a little. That's all.
But he really didn't disrespect him.
No.
Not at all. He didn't disrespect him at all because the way Vito, and we said this in the last one, how Vito locked in his power for the future. He's still building it with this. He's not demanding anything from anybody at all, as he never really did.
And that
that's because Signore Roberto, he may have needed a favor later. They both may have needed a favor later from each other. So he was he was something. Wow. The way he did that.
Great point. Because 50 years later, we're talking about it, telling people, millions of people that didn't even know what went on in this movie. Okay. Being Italian and Sicilian, we already know what he did and yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. But it's for everybody else to know.
And think about this. Like, Roberto is such a greedy bastard that he's getting an extra $5 a month. And back then, that's big money. $5 a month is big money.
It's like 50.
No. Yeah, and all he has to do is allow the dog to be there. But instead of that, he lets his emotions and his ego take place, and he acts like, in your words, a scumbag. And no, you're not gonna. No, I'm not gonna do this.
Right.
So he basically decided justice was served here. Because of that, he's gonna get the dog, and everything's gonna stay exactly the same. You're not gonna make any money. If he would have just taken the money and said, "Okay, all right, I'm getting $5 extra. Okay, I'll let the dog stay there." Okay.
So Arlene, yes, he lowered it $10, but he did not ask for it to be lowered. That's the strength part. That's the power part of Vito. He never asked for it. So he can never say that Vito strong-armed him to lower this rent. He wanted Signore Roberto to get his fair rent, and he wanted the woman to stay in the house. Lowering the rent, yes, Arlene, but he can never come back and say that, this Vito made me lower the rent and take less. He just did it by an intimidation that is being built in as the time goes on.
And it's intimidation through reputation.
Reputation. There you go. Okay, that's it.
You don't have to say a word.
That's it. Perfect. That's crazy. It's true. Intimidation through reputation. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and that scene kind of ends with this particular scene here. This scene right here, when they're in the street, and you have Clemenza, you have Abandano, and then this guy in the back here is Hyman Roth right here.
Yeah. Wow.
And there was a deleted scene here, where Vito meets Hyman Roth, and basically Clemenza found him on the street and brought him in and said, "This guy's a good earner. He works for me. He's a good earner." And I forgot what his actual name was. And Vito says, "Oh, that's a mouthful. That name is a mouthful." And it was some type of like Polish, like long Polish Jewish name. And Vito says, "That's a mouthful. we need a name for you. Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite guy, or who's your idol, or something like that? And he says, what does he say? Arnold Rothstein. Arnold Rothstein. And he goes, okay, we're going to call you Hyman Roth. We're going to call you Hyman Roth. And that's how he gets his name. Vito named him Hyman Roth.
Oh, my goodness.
But they cut that scene out, unfortunately.
Look at that picture. So this goes back to now. This fast forwards or reverses to the conversation that they had about you and Father and I were running,
Yes.
Oh,
right.
my God. This is so crazy how this all comes together. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. What a masterpiece. What a masterpiece.
What happened? Oh, I thought we lost Steen. There he is. He's in the background. Okay.
Too much of that white stuff. I mean snow. Snow. But we spoke about scenes being left in the movie, and we came up with about 12 or 13 hours for The Godfather 1. Kept all the scenes. Yep. So, we came up with about 13 hours of a movie.
It's hard to pick and choose which ones should have stayed in, which,
hard, man.
It's too much. So that ends this part of it, and then the next scene, we'll talk about it briefly because it's just part of it, and it's Michael. It's back to the present day, and it's Michael being brought before Congress to testify at the Senate hearings. And they
are we doing that?
Yeah, we're just going to do that real quick. We're just going to do Michael, because Michael testifying is real short. It's just a small scene of him testifying himself.
Are we finishing it with the brother and everything? Or are we doing the scene?
No, that's
okay.
No, that's after. So this is based on the Godfather hearings. That's what they were called, Godfather hearings.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's the name of the senator that was responsible for it. And he was a senator from Tennessee, and he was a Democrat, and he was using these hearings to basically gain publicity so that he could run for president with Stevens. He was Stevens as vice president in 56. So he used these whole hearings simply as a publicity stunt for him to build his own notoriety nationwide. And in fact, he traveled around the country and had these hearings in different parts of the country just for that very reason, so that people in different parts of the country would recognize his name. So, but we all, that's real history, and that's what they base this on. They base those hearings where Michael is there testifying based on those hearings, where Costello was there, and who else testified? There was another big name, I forgot, but anyway, so Michael is there to testify because he's subpoenaed to come and speak, and they ask him specific questions, and he doesn't take the fifth, which is everyone's right to do. You don't have to say a word. He doesn't. He testifies. He answers their questions, and his questions are basically the questions that are asked of him are you the leader of a crime family? Did you kill Sollozzo? Did you kill Sollozzo? And did you order the death of the heads of the 5 families? And he denies it all. And also, do you own casinos in Las Vegas? Those are the basic questions that he's asked. And the whole reason they're doing this is they're trying to set him up for perjury, so that perjury charge, because they have no evidence of any of this stuff. They don't have evidence of it actually happening. What they're trying to do is get him to deny them, and then they could charge him with perjury. That's the whole goal here.
Why do you think he didn't plead the fifth, especially in that time?
A good question. Good. It really is a good question.
He didn't answer like Nicky Scarfo that we've seen his testimony, and he didn't plead the fifth. Angelo Bruno did go in. Angelo Bruno did answer questions, right?
Right.
Nicky Scarfo said nothing. We've seen his testimony many times. Why do you think he answered questions? Why do you think he agreed to it and not take the
but Joey Gallo didn't answer no questions. Those were the Godfather hearings. All those guys pleaded the Fifth Amendment.
Right. So I'm curious as to why would you think he would do it? A new era in the life?
No.
In the family?
Tony Accardo even pleaded the
No,
fifth.
no. I mean in the movie
No,
now.
he's talking about Michael in the movie. Like,
now.
why did
So,
Michael testify?
back to the
That's
movie now.
Hollywood. That's
So
Hollywood. That's
Yeah,
Hollywood.
it's Hollywood, but I think it's also part of the character of Michael. Michael is still this. I want to be viewed as legitimate.
collegiate.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm above
Yeah.
this. I'm
Okay.
above this.
Okay.
So no one's going to say that I was afraid to speak. No one's going to say
right.
that, that I think that's the character.
I like it. That's a good observation. That's a good explanation.
But you're right. In real life, you shouldn't say a word. Why would you say a word? Because they don't have any evidence of this stuff. This stuff happened years ago. They don't have any direct evidence. They're just trying to get you to say something that can indict you for a lie.
Hold on a minute.
Remember, he's a Don. He's a Don sitting in that chair. They don't say a word.
Well, he
Not
did.
many.
He
I
answers.
know. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So
how would that look now?
So there are guys. I will tell you this, guys. There are guys that testified at Congress, testified at these hearings, whatever they are, subcommittees. And from the public, it looks like, wow, they went in and they're not supposed to. But in closed doors meetings, they were actually discussed about such and such actually going to the hearings and answering, not truthfully, but speaking. Instead of getting contempt and going away for 9 months or 5 years, whatever it might be, they wanted to keep this individual on the street. The only way they could keep this individual on the street and not charge him with contempt is have him actually go to the hearing and answer very, very, very basic, just like Michael did in there. This did happen in real life where guys were made to go to the committee just to keep them on the street. They were that valuable out of facing that contempt of court sentence, which can be from 9 months to 5 years. That's up to the judge.
Yeah.
So it has happened in real life that people have gone to the stand to keep themselves on the street, and they've been told to do this. Now, if it was the such and such, if it was Dindu's crime family and ALV's crime family is looking at it, ALV's family is saying, well, what's going on in Dindu's crime family? But they don't know that Dindu's crime family used this as a strategy to keep that money maker on the street. The only way to keep him out was to have him go to the committee. It's crazy. Right. It does happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you do not show up, that's the contempt charge. As long as you show up and you take the fifth on each specific question. So you take the Fifth Amendment based on each individual question. So if you feel that there's a question that doesn't, if it's like, for example, your name, what's your name? They start off, you answer that, right? Yeah. And once you do that, you have complied with the requirements of the, and you won't get a contempt charge against you.
Right.
So I answer very basic, but we're keeping you on the street. You're released after that.
Right.
That's what it's a fact. That's what my guy told me at the time to ALV.
Yep. They did it.
Just say your name.
Say your name. You're right. I showed up.
Yeah.
But Anthony's crime family is saying, what's going on in Dindu's family? They got a guy at the subcommittee. But inside Dindu's family, it was a strategy.
Right.
We weren't going to tell everybody or anybody.
No.
Right.
Now, the interesting thing about this scene is that Michael reads a statement. He reads a statement to the committee, a pre-prepared statement that he and Tom prepared. And in that statement, he talks about how he was a World War II veteran. He won the Navy Cross. He served his country. He owns legitimate stocks. He's a businessman, all this stuff. But this is the only time in both movies in that statement is where they say mafia. They say the word mafia. He said he reads that, whether you call it mafia or whether you call it Cosa Nostra. Those are that's the only time you hear either one of those terms in both movies.
It's
the only time.
It's the courtroom. That's why.
Yeah.
To explain it, he knows everybody in the whole world calls it them two words.
Right.
Wow. That's great. That's amazing. I like that.
We hate that word. Everybody else loves it.
This one scene was so impactful that we're having this much conversation about it. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then of course Senator Geary is there. Senator Geary, who in the epitome of hypocrisy gets up and makes a statement on how much he loves Italians.
Oh, that was hysterical. It's comedic.
Well, that just shows you. It just showed you right then and there how much power they had over him to make him do that in public. You
Yeah,
know?
100%.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. That was something, huh?
They had his chest in the ringer.
Yeah, they had him at that point.
Yep.
You know, he was one of them then.
But how embarrassing, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for us guys, we're like, oh, yeah, we got him good now. We got him good. Right?
You know, that's like, that guy just stood up and said that about Italians. You know what I mean?
And Michael's
It's like
like,
what-
this dumb bastard. What's he talking about?
You know, I can't believe he just said that, you know.
And Michael doesn't even react. Michael
He
doesn't
doesn't.
smile,
Yeah.
doesn't do anything. Just sits there and looks straight ahead.
Right.
Um,
Well, it's one of them
Mhm.
moves.
right.
Unbelievable.
You know, and so, you know, so basically they're asking him questions based on Willie Chichi's testimony. So Willie Chichi, whatever
Right.
Willie Chichi told the FBI is what they're asking him questions on. And
Right.
because Pantangeli hasn't been called yet, that's going to be down the road. So they use
right.
Willie Chichi.
He flipped to Willie Chichi.
Yes, right.
Pantangeli, right. Okay.
Right. Because remember, when Pantangeli was the assassination attempt on Pantangeli, Willie Chichi was shot. He was shot there
and run over.
But somehow survived, right? But he
Yeah.
was arrested. He was taken in with Pantangeli at the same time. They grabbed him at the same time.
That's right.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
At first, I always thought he got killed, and then
Yeah.
he testified. Right.
That was in the bar?
He
Yeah,
was outside the bar, right?
Outside the bar, yeah, but it happened.
Willie was outside the bar and was shooting, exchanging fire with them, and got shot and then run over.
Yes.
And Cino Evil says Willie was Joe Valachi. I don't know. I guess. I mean, but I guess he could be, was a model. I guess a model for him. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what they're doing. They're using Willie Chichi's testimony to elicit questions from Michael in hopes that Michael denies it so that they can call Pantangeli, who's more believable than Willie. Willie is just a street guy, had no direct connections with Michael at all. So he really couldn't testify in a court of law against him. He could testify in Congress because it's not a court of law. So, but if they get Pantangeli to come in, who has direct connections with Michael, then they can indict Michael on lying and put him away for perjury. So that's the whole goal here.
So one's a character witness and one's an expert witness on the lie.
Right.
So to speak,
Right.
One was at the crimes and one explains how it all goes down.
Right.
He was a hitman and hitman and caller. That's shot caller and hitman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, awesome.
So that's where we're gonna stop. That took place. Oh, and it ends with Tom Hagen yelling at the committee that the committee owes it. No, I'm sorry. That comes after Pantangeli. I'm sorry. No, at this point, Michael just leaves. He just leaves the hearing, and it closes. So it sets up for what's to come next. That's all.
Yeah, the next one's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about all that back in the early 90s. Somebody got me this, and I saved it forever. I never even used it. It was a sticker, and it was out of a collection of 5 stickers. They were called serial killers.
Okay.
They had Manson, and they had a title on them. They had someone else. They had a title on them. And out of the 5, they had this one.
Nice.
So everyone else was real, but they have a character there. Everyone, all the others were actual real people.
Michael Corleone. See serial killers right there under the M. See it?
Yeah.
Serial killers, and they had Mafia and Michael Corleone.
Interesting.
A Hollywood character, like you said. They had all real people, and then they had this as a serial killer.
Which is kind of bizarre because how can you call him a serial killer? Even you can't call the character a serial killer. He isn't.
Okay, the Don. They call the Don the serial killer. I always say that stupid thing.
Right.
Unbelievable. Oh my God. That's great.
I always knew it would be a conversation piece one day. See?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And of course
Gianni.
you have it. Of course you have everything in that room someplace.
Married ALV, you know that. Hey, look at this poor thing. It's got tape on it. It's got other stickers on it. That's please.
My Lord. There's so much in this movie. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
There's so much great stuff.
I tell you, they had Godfather 3 was on TV last week, and I recorded it because I don't have that on DVD. So I recorded it so I could, when we get to it, I can relook at it. And
No,
yeah, 2 and 1 were both on last night. On,
yes, right.
What was it on HBO or Showtime?
I think it was HBO. No, wait, no, it was Showtime. It was Showtime. Yeah,
and then late at night, but yeah.
Yep.
And they're still playing them.
Yeah. Yep.
of course.
40 years later.
Exactly. And they'll be playing them 40 years in the future. They'll be playing
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
They'll be dead and they'll still be playing them, guys.
Yeah. Well, those that were there were dead. Our grandparents and all of that. Parents,
Yeah.
They were there. They witnessed this come out.
Absolutely.
Right.
They were there. They saw this in the movies. I didn't see Godfather in the movies. How old were we? What year? 76?
Godfather, the original Godfather was what? 73, right?
73.
Yeah.
We were 3 years old.
4 years
4 years
old.
old. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then Godfather 2 was 76.
Yeah, 2 years later. Yeah.
Yeah,
75.
75, 2 years later.
So we didn't see this till we didn't see this till later on in life.
Right. Yep.
Why did we see it?
Well, you know what?
It's unbelievable.
That's not true. I seen it right shortly after it all came out.
Yes, but you're 5 years older than us. Right.
Made a VHS about it. We caught it fast.
Yes, but you're a couple of years older than us. So
No, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm just
Right.
saying.
I think the first time I saw it was on regular TV. It was on where they were showing it. They were showing it on regular TV in the late 70s. They were showing it, and it was like a TV version of it that they showed over.
it was it was a trilogy. It was a trilogy.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yep. And my mother would. That's it. Everything stopped when that came on.
Yeah. Yep.
Run to the bathroom in commercials because that's what it is.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah, it's basically what it was.
Exactly.
So, and they did it. They didn't do it all in one night. I think they took 3 nights to do it.
No. Yeah, it was a mini series type of thing.
Miniseries. So it was 3
Yeah.
nights. It was 3
If
nights.
it was
probably
3 hours,
Yeah.
it'd be an hour of advertisements. You got to remember that. So they had to do it in series
Right.
and parts.
And what
So
was good about that though was that the deleted scenes were in that. When they played that, they played it with everything. They played the deleted scenes as well. And that's what they call the saga, the Godfather saga. It has all the deleted scenes in it, or everything.
Do you have that or no?
I don't have it. No, I don't have it. But you can buy it. I think you can buy it.
Sure, you can buy it. Sure. Wow.
Oh.
Interesting.
Oh, hi, Cinnamon Girl. Good to see you.
Gentlemen, what's going down?
Yeah, I think it was 3 nights. It was probably a Tuesday and Wednesday and a Thursday, or a Monday, Tuesday and a Wednesday.
Mhm.
And that was basically what was going on in my mother's house those 3 nights.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, we didn't miss it. Everybody was in front of the TV. Something good was on TV. We'd all pile in front of the TV.
Well, that's something, that's a great point because that's something that defines a generation, something like that, which we don't have today. Like they don't have that today, where everyone was in front of the television at the same time watching something specifically. That bonded a generation. We don't have that now. It doesn't exist.
Agree, disagree, debate each other. I mean,
Watch it. You only had one shot to watch it.
Right.
The whole country. The whole country had one shot to watch it.
Room. They're over here watching it. They got their own TV.
Look, there is no more. Did you see what you called it last night?
Right.
It's over.
Right.
Did you see Seinfeld last night? That's over.
Yeah.
Did you see Happy Days last night? You'll never hear these words again because there is no last night. It's push the button and you watch it.
I can't tell you how many times at number 5 school the day after on Wednesday morning we'd be talking about what happened. What did Fonzie do on Happy Days?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. And the kids don't do that anymore. It just doesn't happen.
Care. No, it's amazing. It's amazing.
But we have this stuff locked in time, which is beautiful, and we get to enjoy things like
Yeah.
this.
Yep.
Get to have
Ac-
this kind
And I'll
of-
never wait. This is the best, like you just said it. I'll never forget the happy days where you guys remember the Mexican kid that came over in the school and they played football with him. Was it Happy Days? And every time they handed him the football, he'd score a touchdown. And the only thing he said, "Me love football."
That was on
next
Happy
day-
Days.
Happy Days.
I don't even remember that one.
The next day, that's all that was piped through the neighborhood's playgrounds. You know, if you scored a touchdown, it was right during football season.
What
Everybody
a
was
shame.
"We love football." You know, it became like a national, happy.
Yeah.
That's
you
all
know,
gone. What a shame. What a shame. It's all
I
gone.
think it was Happy Days.
And believe it or not, my theory is that that's why we live in such a hostile society, because there's no bonding. There's no bonding of people with common experiences like that. So
right. Help me out
everybody-
here. It was a school. What do they call them people when they come over and go to school with us when we were kids? Help me here.
Foreign exchange student.
Foreign exchange. Yeah, he was a foreign exchange student, and that was
Mhm.
something big on that show.
Yeah.
You know, it was like teaching America about foreign
Yeah.
exchange, students, and they
Right.
could be cool. They could be like us. That's what I meant by all that. It was a great episode. Great episode. I'll never forget it.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was on. I'll get it. It was on Happy Days. I think. Yes.
Yeah, I don't remember that specifically, but yeah, it makes sense. It definitely
Oh,
makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially 45 years later, I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Right. Right.
Wow. It's crazy.
It was great.
It was great. Good stuff,
You know,
man.
Just, we watched it that night. The next day, we were, playing football, talking about it. Playing football.
And to your point, Stiggs, is that if you missed it, you had to wait for it to come on a rerun. You'd have to wait for the rerun. God knows when that was happening. If you missed it, you're out. You're done.
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah.
In America, you want to be the first one to see that show, to talk about it the next day.
Mm-hmm.
That was our thing.
Yeah, because it was what did I miss come from? What did I miss last night on such and such? What did I miss? What did I miss? And before the next episode came on, somebody caught you up on it. So it was a conversation point. If you missed it, if you're at a football game or a wrestling match, whatever, baseball game, and you missed it, somebody would tell you what happened before the next episode came on, and you will be up to speed, because that's the only way to do it. You're not going to see the rerun before the next episode.
Right.
So Dean would tell Anthony what happened on that show last night, so that Anthony's ready for next week.
And I remember, I don't know what grade I was in, but it was like third grade or something. I went on a camping trip at Cub Scouts, a camping trip overnight, and it was a Friday night, and everyone was pissed because we were going to miss the Dukes of Hazzard. And this is what there was a kid there that had a boom box, and the boom box he could get TV stations on it, and he put it on, and we were listening to the Dukes of Hazzard, because we wanted to make sure we heard what happened on that episode.
Oh my God, that's funny.
in the cabin. Remember, it was in the cabin, and he had the radio, and we were all listening behind it.
It's great.
That's hysterical. Yeah.
Yeah, See No Evil's reciting everything now from
Happy
Happy
Days.
Days. The Malachi brothers.
Yeah, he gets excited. He gets excited.
Come
He's
on.
good. He gets excited. He likes, he's that.
I know. Apangu, give us an A.
Hey, there you go. Hey, yes.
What's your thumbs up? A. Woo. Next, he'll be looking for Pinky Tuscadero.
He already mentioned her. He already mentioned her.
Oh, did
He
he?
did that already.
Yes.
He did jumping over the water already. He did the whole thing.
Jumping the shark, which was
He did it all.
Nope.
He did the whole show in this show thing. We did
Jumping
the
the
whole,
shark.
he did the whole series while we did the Godfather.
Okay, I must have missed all them. Sorry. Oh.
He did the whole Fonzie series in a matter of 6 comments.
Oh boy.
Woo!
Oh, my God.
Mapango. Oh,
Oh, God, only here.
Anyway,
Only in this neighborhood here.
yes.
yeah, that's it. It's all shot over here.
But anyway, so next week we'll pick up on where we left off with Michael. He goes back. I think he goes back. And we hear all the stuff. We hear about Pantangeli. He finds out about Pantangeli and all this stuff. So that's the next scene.
Should be good.
But this was good. This was a good discussion. We got into a lot of detail on a pretty short scenes. Pretty short scenes. We did a lot into it. We got really
It's
into
deep
it.
because it's deep. It is deep.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Good.
Thanks to everyone in the chat for participating and hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. And hit the like button if you like what you saw here. And we will see you again next week. And until then, God bless to all.
Later, everyone.
That was good. That was perfect.